like a toy. And did you see? Lava has some snow on it. Has snow.
All right, we're keeping that door open, or
That feels kind of good, actually.
I'm cool with it.
You're cool?
Yeah, let's do it. All right, well, we're gonna get going. So thank you all for joining me for handy beginner's guide to Hasta Mudras. So I hope you get the joke.
Such a
They got
good-
these hands. So yeah, as the title, you can probably infer from the title, we will be working with mudras of the hands or Hasta Mudras, but it is a beginner's guide. So kind of overall, we'll be coming from a beginner's mindset. And in general, I'd probably teach this as more of a beginner workshop, but since you're teachers, then just put on your beginner hat for today, and maybe you'll learn something that you didn't know about mudras before. So kind of here's what today is going to look like. We will start off with a nice little bit of discussion. So anybody who would like to chime in and speak about your ideas on mudras or just any questions, then I definitely welcome that. Then that will be followed with learning about some mudras. I'll give you a little list, and then we will experience it in our own body. So we'll be going through some movements, then we'll finish that with a meditation. And finally, everybody will create their own mudra plan about how you'd like to incorporate these mudras into your life, or mudras that are interesting to you. So let's get started here. I will give you all these packets. Bryce, would you mind passing these down the row, please? Actually, give me one of those. I will need one as well. I think we have enough. 6. Yeah, we have. Okay. Yeah, should 36. Yeah, there's 7 total, so this is the perfect amount, actually.
Good, because I don't want to share.
All right, so we've got our mudra packets. So let's start off here. What got you guys interested in this workshop? Does anybody want to share kind of their knowledge around mudras? Yeah, Amy.
I've been trying to incorporate them with more of my yin practices. I've been educating other students, and I want to learn more about them and more of them. I have the book, but I'm not doing them enough, and this is going to spark that interest in what I do.
Okay, super awesome. Anyone else?
I incorporated mudras when I was working with my private clients for back injury. So I was researching some of the mudras, like for like back strength and stuff. And she's not woo, so I had to kind of talk to her about what mudras are and like some of the science behind it and stuff like that, which just, then I was like, this is super interesting. I bought the mudra book, and I just want to learn more about them because I think it's pretty cool.
Awesome. Well, then you're in the right place where you're trying to bring the woo and the mudra kind of like into more alignment.
Like the Wudra.
Yeah, the woo.
I'm joking.
Too many jokes. You reached your cap. So kind of my background with mudras, of course, I have not been teaching for a super long time, but mudras actually have always been interesting to me. Even since I was young, I love to play with my hands and just figure out little things like, ooh, I can make a little scary face, you know, with my hands, or just all sorts of different things. And I think that even throughout my life, I had probably done mudras in a lot of different situations and hadn't even realized it. And that's just how impactful and powerful mudras are. So especially here around Cambio, there are lots of mudras that we probably hear about and maybe do and then don't fully know the background behind. So let's just kind of dive into mudras. So what is a mudra? Does anybody have an idea of what a mudra might be?
Ambience.
A seal.
A seal?
Energy.
Perfect. Any other ideas?
And channeling of your heart.
Yeah.
I usually associate it with like more intentionality.
Okay. I like that. So all of these are different ways of interpreting what a mudra might be. So the root of the Sanskrit word of mudra is mood, and this is usually, or it means happiness, pleasure, and ananda. Also fair warning, if I butcher any of my Sanskrit, I'm trying my best here, but there are a couple Sanskrit words. They're kind of challenging for me sometimes, but Ananda is our state of pure bliss, basically. So mudras are said to help us find Ananda Shri, which Shri in this context is our divine feminine energy. So we're uniting the divine feminine and our masculine all together into one state of basically divine bliss. And all of that is associated with just our hand mudras. So that is really cool. As Bryce mentioned, seal is one of the meanings of mudra, gesture, lock, posture, symbol, and currency as well. So those are all different words for the meaning. And then they can be known as closed electrical circuits, or just thought of in that way. So if you think of prana as like our energy, or kind of the way that energy travels through our body, or energy can come out of our hands, practices like Reiki, where energy comes out of our hands, and by doing different gestures, then it changes how the energy travels through our body when we create this sort of circuit. So this is all pretty cool stuff, but overall mudras are different gestures in your body. So mudras might be with your face or tongue or hands, but today we're specifically focused on Hasta mudras, which is our hand mudras. So there is a very wide world of Hasta mudras that we will be exploring today. And it's okay to feel like there's quite a few things here. We're just kind of taking a dive. This is more to open up the book of mudras to you all so that you can do more exploration. So mudras are a form of communication. And if you've ever taken a sort of communication class, then you might have heard of different styles of communication. So first we've got interpersonal communication. So without looking at your sheet, can anybody tell me what interpersonal communication is? Or does anybody know?
It's one-on-one.
Yeah. So it's communication that involves two people, or usually something in that regard with emotions and feelings. And then how about intrapersonal communication?
What you're doing right now.
There you go. So, well, intrapersonal would refer to yourself. So your connection with yourself and your relationship with yourself. And then finally, transpersonal. Has anyone heard of transpersonal communication? So does anybody want to take a shot at it without looking at your cheat sheet? No cheat sheet. Okay. Well, this one actually refers to your connection with the divine, or sort of a spiritual connection. So these are three different modes of communication. And of course, this is no communications class. This is on mudras. So that's just a little, that is one way of looking at communication. So if you were to guess, which column do you think a Hasta mudra would be in? There you go. Every single one. So if you flip to the next page, it is a trick question. Hasta mudras are all three modes of communication. So we can use them as modes of communication, of course, with our other yogis, as a way to get in tune with ourselves and a way of getting in tune with the divine. So mudras are very cool in that way. That is what I love about them most, is that they are just so flexible, and there are all sorts of different ways to sort of explore. So if you look at our next piece here, mudras and the brain, these are pictures that I have gotten out of a book called Mudras. It's in the back. Let me look the name of it real fast, just like you give the credit. Mudra, The Sacred Secret by Indu Arora. That is a very good book. And then, of course, I brought this mudra book, which being teachers, you're probably all familiar with. It has lots of great mudras and extra knowledge to share with us there. But yeah, so if you check out this sort of little diagram right here, you'll see that our fingers actually connect with different pieces of our brain. So who knew? So something like your thumb connects with action. So if you look in the action piece of your brain, then your left thumb would connect with your creative brain, your right thumb connecting with organization and management. So this is very cool stuff, in my opinion. And this kind of opens up the door to experimenting with your own mudras. So this is just one way of looking at mudras, of how it connects with the brain. But if you flip past our mudra section here, right near the back, we have one other page. If you flip to energetic view of the hand, this is one other, or I guess quite a few other ways of looking at the anatomy of your hand. So at the top left, we've got the location of planets on your hands. So this is getting real deep here. Each finger connects to a specific planet. There are marma points, meridian pathways. There are even chakras in your hand. So also, if you have done practice of Reiki, then you are probably familiar with the chakras in your hands. There are quite a few. So these are all just tools for you to look at and play around with on your own. So any questions that are coming up so far as you look at these? Because I've just thrown a whole lot at you. What are you thinking?
And this is all according to that one book?
Yeah, this is all through the Sacred Secret mudras. But there are also quite a few other versions of these maps of your hands. So there's also acupressure, or probably endless models of your hand that are out there in different energetic pathways. Of course, we also have our nadis in the front of the book. So really, this is all to share. This is not to overwhelm you. It is mostly just to show you that we have many different ways of looking at the Hasta mudras that we do in our classes, and kind of the different ways that they might affect us on many deeper levels. So maybe you connect with the chakras, maybe you know about marma points and like to connect with those, or maybe it's just the brain. These are all just different ways of thinking about it. And I'd like to encourage you to find your own mudras. So you can always explore and use these as a sort of roadmap for your own mudra journey. So say, for instance, I am having a lot of trouble with my thoughts. And then maybe I'd want to connect with my pointer finger. And then maybe I'd want to do a Dhyana mudra, something that connects more with that. Or if I'm feeling pretty unbalanced, then you could look at the chakras and find out, oh, hey, this finger connects with my root chakra. And then connect with a mudra that way. So these are all tools and resources that you can use along your own mudra journey. And that is kind of just our baseline. The other piece of base information that I will share is I wrote down a little story of mudras down at the bottom of that part of the brain. It is a little bit of a complex story, but kind of the summary in a way is that sages would travel into a very sort of transcendent state. And in this state, they had such experiences that are hard for words to even describe. But once they were described, they came out as, again, excuse my Sanskrit, but akshara, or in syllables, vaikari. And the combination of these experiences and these words expressed through our body is known as mudras. And that is what we understand mudras to be. So it's a little bit of a complex story or history, but I wanted to share it because I believe it's important to at least know where they come from or have a sort of grasp. So yeah, any questions so far?
What's the marma point?
Marma point, there's certain parts in your body that connect to different organs, basically, from what I can understand. I am not as deeply knowing in marma points, but yeah.
But it's organs.
Yeah, it's something along those lines of, I think, like energetically. something along those lines. I might be getting those confused with meridians. But yeah, that is a topic for another workshop. So let's get into some mudras now. So if you flip your page from our mudras and the brain page, then we are starting off with a couple mudras here. So first, we've got Anjali Mudra. So this is a common one in our practices. And as we're doing these mudras, then you can feel free to do some of these on your own just to experience what they might feel like for you. This one is bringing your palms together and pressing your thumbs against your heart center. This one is great for union, connects with your heart, of course, and all of the chakras and elements. We have Dhyana. This is another one that we practice quite a bit with our meditation and helps a lot with meditation. It is known as our meditation mudra, or to support effortless meditation. If you'll flip your page, we have Bu Mudra up next. So who's done a Bu Mudra in a class? Probably all of us at this point. This is a grounding mudra, bringing your thumb to your two fingers and then bringing your two-piece fingers down to the ground. This is one of my favorite mudras, and it is also very cool. You can put it onto your legs and still get the same sense of grounding. So you can do this in a mountain pose even, or pretty much any posture that it feels calling to do so. So next, we've got Jnana Mudra. When you think of yoga and you think of mudras, this is probably the first one that is most commonly known. This is our mudra of wisdom, connecting us to our inner wisdom, and is also another very amazing mudra for meditation practice. And this one connects with your third eye or sixth chakra. And then beyond this, we have a couple bonus mudras that I have provided you with. So we've got Purna Hridaya Mudra. And I love this one because it's a little lovely heart. So you make a heart with your hands and you bring this to your heart center. This one, of course, can anybody guess which chakra this one connects with? This connects with your heart chakra. And it can enhance immunity and improves your breath capacity. So cool pieces of information that come along with these mudras. Who knew? We also have Kali Mudra, another amazing one if you practice a lot of hot. We have any hot yogis in here? We've got at least one. This is the mudra that we typically do. It's usually a steeple grip, so it's just a little different. But our Kali Mudra, this is another very cool one. I love Kali Mudra. This is the sword of Kali. So you could bring this up overhead in your mountain and slice away anything that you are ready to let go of in your life, because Kali is a goddess of sort of purifying and helping us release our limiting beliefs. So very cool mudra right there. And then our last bonus mudra that we will go over is our Dharma Chakra Mudra, mudra of the Wheel of Truth. And this one I threw in there just because I want to kind of open your minds to the ideas of different mudras that might be out there. So this one, as Bryce was actually telling me, can connect with our Nadi Shuddhi or Nadi Shodhana, with our alternate nostril breath as we're moving in through one nostril and out the other, but also supports manifestations. This connects with all of our chakras, all of the elements. And I just think this is a really cool looking one. So if you'd like to challenge yourself, maybe to think outside the box, maybe you go to this bonus mudra section next time that you are taking a class or just doing some yoga on your own. But that is kind of the beauty of mudras, is that we could do them in class, but where else do you see yourself doing mudras? Where do you think we could do a mudra that might be off the mat?
I literally have this mudra as a drawing on my wall, where I did that like turkey tracing of your hands, right? But I did it with the mudra, and then I flipped the paper and I did the other side.
Oh, that's so cool.
And then I colored them in. It's a self-reflection piece.
That's awesome. Well, now you got more info about your wall piece.
Yeah, I'll take a picture also.
Yeah. That's great. Amy?
During your meditation?
Yeah, during meditation, that's a great place to do a mudra. Where else? Bryce?
Just
when you're feeling stressed or need to connect in a particular way. I'll use Boo Mudra or Poly Mudra or others.
Totally. That's great. Any other ideas of where we could use a mudra or a personal mudra that maybe has connected with you in that sort of way?
And then also, I mean, since as yoga teachers, we bring our hands to heart, like I
Mhm.
know that's something that I do more often. It's like I give that bow and that
Yeah,
show of respect to people because I really appreciate that. I wish more people did that to more people.
Yeah, I
And
agree.
so I love that.
yeah. Amy?
Especially during maybe a discussion or argument.
Mm.
Like, wow, it's just so much.
Oh, yeah.
Here.
Yeah, like I can't even with you right now. Or
Or maybe while you're there talking to, just like, where am I coming from?
yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Myself when I'm having this conversation.
yeah. So maybe it's a tool when you're in a moment of challenge, then maybe you need to whip out a Boo Mudra real quick and say like, I need to relax, I need to ground. If you need a sense of something like that, then you can remember, oh, this is my mudra for helping me to do this. I can take a moment and take a breath. Or we can think of moments that we use mudras in daily life, right? We've got thumbs up, good job. Or whenever I am saying something from my heart, a lot of the time I do like to use an Anjali mudra and say like, thank you so much. Like you can use that to connect with a certain chakra or a certain feeling in your body, which I think is so cool about mudras. Or maybe even a business guy taking a mudra of your third chakra. You'll see when people are in business a lot, they'll have a mudra that connects to their power center, which is so interesting because they might not even know that they're doing a mudra.
Steeple.
Yeah, or a steeple grip. Yeah, using a Kali mudra. So yeah, the pew pew. So there are lots of different ways that we use mudras in everyday life. And I just like to encourage you to experiment and use these tools as a sort of guide to figure out mudras on your own. So I'm just kind of the guide here, just giving you the tools, but this is really up to you to discover and figure out on your own and figure out what connects with you most. Maybe you already have a mudra practice and some that you love the most. There are so many out there, so many resources, but that kind of concludes our section of checking out our different mudras. And now we're going to feel a little bit of a practice just to experiment with some of these mudras. So when you're ready,
I have a
yeah,
question.
go ahead.
Like, how important is it to have everything in the right spot? Like the steeple, like if you have one thumb over the other or the other thumb over the other, Kali Mudra, does that matter?
I believe that that does make a difference because if you think about our nadis, like, or our channels in our body, you know, we've got the lunar and the solar, like the masculine and feminine. So I think whichever one maybe you're trying to encourage a little more could be over top, or you could just play with that yourself. I mean, because that is it's a deep question. So check it out and see how you feel in your body. See if you feel any difference. And maybe as you're going from side to side, if you did this in an extended mountain, maybe you swap it to the left side and to balance it out.
Got it, but it's not like, okay, it has to be right over left, it's just.
From my understanding, not that I know that it has to be one over the other. But yeah, try it
Okay,
out.
Thank you.
Speaking about Hasta mudras, are there any mudras that like, oh, you put your hands here and you do that or something like that?
Oh
Aren't
yeah,
those-
there are
I just
definitely
think that's
mudras like
okay.
that. Yeah. So this mudra book is a great resource. So as I had mentioned, we're specifically focused on Hasta mudras today because I just didn't want to overwhelm you guys with like every single mudra thing that exists on the planet because there's just so much. Even that back piece, like there is a lot in there to dissect about all the different pieces of anatomy of your hands. But there are mudras like bringing your hands up over and touching the back of your shoulders. And this can help with all sorts of different things, physically, emotionally, mentally. Of course, we've all done 300-hour here at Cambio and know, because we're in it right now, in case you didn't know, but we have done our mudras. Yeah, we're at 300-hour today. Mudras of, you know, like Shambhavi mudra, for instance, of gazing at your third eye, or some of these books, I believe the one by Indu Aurora even mentioned that something like a smile could be a mudra, because mudras, if you really think about the definition, mudra being a gesture, if the definition is gesture, I mean, a smile, what do we think of as a gesture? You know, that could be a gesture. This could be a gesture. So mudras, there are so many mudras. There are just as many, if not even more mudras than there are people on the planet. So you could really experiment with this. And maybe you are playing with these mudras and you're like, I want to connect with Saturn today on this finger. And then you can check out one of these books, or I also have a couple resources in the back here, which are websites. So these are free websites that you can check out and find more resources on mudras in case you didn't want to buy the books. Then maybe you connect with Saturn and then you look it up and you're like, oh, this is this mudra. And then that's when you want to start incorporating in your practice, or you can just make one up. Maybe you just want to say like, I'll do this mudra, even though I don't know the name, and then eventually start to see like, oh, this is what the mudra is. Maybe you find it somewhere, or just incorporate it as part of your practice. But that is our end of our discussion time. So just to be good with time here, we will start to move on into our physical practice and experience these in our body. So as you're ready, you can start to shift your items to your side, and we will begin to practice in a child's pose. So bring your knees out wide, big toes to touch, and your arms extend long towards the top of your mat. So this will be a gentle, kind of slower practice, but do make sure that you've got at least one block at the top of your space. All right, so taking a moment here just to settle into your space. Tuning in with your body. Tuning into the short practice. And allowing yourself to sort of find yourself in this open space. Just sort of synthesizing this information. Any thoughts or questions that might be coming up for you. Start to take a Bhu Mudra in this position. So bring your thumbs to touch your last two fingers, and then your peace fingers press down to the ground. The child's pose is a pose of surrender and grounding already, but we can add more of an emphasis onto the sense of grounding by adding our Bhu Mudra. So maybe you just take note here. How might have the experience shifted already? What feels different? Creating this closed circuit of your hands. Anything in your mind or physically? Tuning into the element of the earth. And as you're ready, you can release the mudra. Going back to your palms. On your inhale, start to shift your way up into a tabletop as you're ready. Starting to take a few organic movements of your hips, your shoulders, before eventually finding your way into some cat-cows. Inhaling, drop your belly, lift your gaze and tailbone, and exhale to arch your spine. Just taking a few gentle movements here that feel right to prepare you for our practice. Take two more rounds, evening yourself out wherever you're at. As you're ready, on an inhale, find your way back to a stationary tabletop. Plant your palms, one palm print forward, tuck your toes, lift your hips, downward facing dog. Taking just a moment to settle into your downward facing dog here. Pressing your heels towards the back of your mat. Spread your fingertips wide. Maybe you pedal out your dog for just a second. And find your way back to a stationary downward facing dog. Inhale, gaze to the top of your mat, and exhale, slowly tiptoe your feet to your hands, forward fold. And you can take a moment just in your typical forward fold, whatever you would regularly take, just to decompress your low spine. Get a little bit of movement. And then start to find your way back to center. Now, this is where we'll take our Bhu Mudra once again. So find your two peace fingers, then bring your thumb to your other two fingers. And if it's all right and accessible in your body, then walk your Bhu Mudra out wide to your sides, pressing your Bhu Mudra down to the ground. Feeling this sense of grounding, but in a sort of different position. And maybe you start to close your eyes, visualizing yourself as a mountain. So your arms extending down to your sides, pressing down into the earth or growing your strong roots and your stability, where they peak at your hips at the summit of your mountain. Just noticing any effects, anything that might be coming up for you. And then start to slowly release your mudra. On your next inhale, slowly begin to rise one vertebra at a time, taking your time as you come up to a standing mountain. You can leave your eyes closed or at a soft gaze with your palms down by your sides, shining towards the front of the room in our Mukti Mudra with your palms down. This is our gesture of receiving. And make a note now, just to be open to any experiences that may come up for you, whether it's through our discussion, our practice, or meditation, being open to whatever the universe will provide, letting things go exactly as they're meant to. Now on your next inhale, extended mountain, bring your arms up overhead, and on your exhale, draw your hands into heart center, Anjali Mudra. You can leave your eyes closed or at a soft gaze, tuning into your heart space, feeling the same sense of openness that we felt in our Mukti Mudra, letting yourself expand out into the infinite possibilities. As you're ready, on your next inhale, extended mountain, reach your arms up overhead, and on your exhale, forward fold, hinge at your hips, lead with your heart. And I'll start to flow through this just a little quicker here. On your inhale, halfway lift, squeeze your shoulder blades together. On your exhale, forward fold. Inhale, extended mountain, root to rise, bring your arms up overhead, and exhale, draw your hands into heart center, channeling all the energy in towards your heart space. Inhale, extended mountain. Exhale, forward fold. Inhale, halfway lift, lengthen through your spine. Exhale, forward fold. We'll take one last round, one breath per movement. Inhale, extended mountain, circle sweep your arms up overhead. Exhale, draw energy in towards your heart space. Inhale, extended mountain, reach up overhead. Exhale, forward fold, hinge at your hips. Inhale, halfway lift, and exhale, forward fold. Now from here, plant your palms and begin to heel toe your feet out wider than the width of your hips, with your heels in and toes out. Find your way down into a Malasana. Now you've got your block at the top of your mat, so you can bring a block underneath your hips, giving yourself a seat, but find your Anjali Mudra at heart center in between your knees. So another moment that typically in our practice, we might experience a mudra. Sometimes in our practice, we just flow right through. But take a moment right here just to notice the difference between our standing mountain with our Anjali Mudra and how it changes when we're in a seat. Breathing with your mudra. As you're ready, you can release your mudra and we'll find our way to a seat. If you have your block, you can just press back to sitting on your mudra or sitting on your mudra. Don't sit on your mudra, don't, especially not this one. Sit down onto your block or onto your mat. All right. So we're going to move into our meditation portion. So that was just a little taste of how you can incorporate mudras into your practice. And we'll be finding our meditation posture. So this can be sitting in rock pose or sitting in your easy pose, maybe up on a block. And we'll be doing a meditation for psycho-emotional well-being. So this is how your psychology or any psychological factors and emotional factors in your body relate and correspond with one another. So this will be done with our bonus mudra, the Purna Hridaya mudra, our heart. So draw this into your heart center and know that mudras can be a little taxing sometimes to hold for a while. So if you feel called to do so, you can always hold it in your lap or release the mudra, maybe taking a different mudra or just sensing into your heart space as we find our way into this meditation. Just begin to tune in to your seat. I'd encourage you to either close your eyes or soften your gaze. As you hold your Purna Hridaya mudra, take several natural breaths to attune to all the feelings and sensations that are awakened by this gesture. With each inhalation, sense your ribcage expanding evenly. And with each exhalation, your chest, side ribs, and upper back soften and relax completely. As your ribcage expands and softens with your breath, take some time to sense a growing openness within your heart center. As your heart center opens gradually, you create a space to embrace your psycho-emotional being, welcoming thoughts and feelings, allowing them to arise and pass freely while neither judging them or identifying with them, but learning to simply ride them as waves of pure energy. Begin by allowing a positive thought to arise. Experience the feeling that naturally accompanies it. Now allow this feeling to simply be. And as you embrace it, without resistance, you'll begin to sense it as a wave of pure energy that you ride easily in synchrony with your breathing. With each inhaling breath, you ride this feeling to its crest. And with each exhalation, you experience greater ease and release throughout your psycho-emotional being. As you ride your wave of positive feeling with greater ease, take several breaths to sense how your heart center is nourished with vital energy. As your heart opens more completely, you gradually develop the ability to welcome even challenging thoughts and feelings as waves of pure energy. To deepen this ability, invite a difficult thought to arise within your being, experiencing the feeling that accompanies it while simply witnessing. Take all the time you need to sense this challenging feeling as a wave of pure energy that you ride together with your breathing. With each inhaling breath, welcome any tension or resistance that arises. And with each exhalation, allow this tension to be released, allowing you to ride your wave of feeling with greater lightness and ease. As you ride this wave of feeling with greater ease, take several breaths to sense how your heart center naturally becomes lighter and more peaceful. As you develop the ability to ride both positive and negative feelings as waves of pure energy, you naturally become more comfortable in your psycho-emotional being by embracing all of your thoughts and feelings more easily. Affirm your growing ease as you repeat the following 3 times silently to yourself. Riding the wave of feeling, I sense greater ease in my psycho-emotional being. Riding the wave of feeling, I sense greater ease in my psycho-emotional being. Riding the wave of feeling, I sense greater ease in my psycho-emotional being. Now slowly release the gesture. Take several breaths to rest in the ease that arises through riding waves of feeling as pure energy. Taking a moment to notice anything that's changed or come up through this meditation. When you're ready, gently begin to blink open your eyes, returning to our space. And I'd like for you to take just a few moments here to write down anything that you've experienced so far through our practice. So whatever may have come up in that meditation, if you have your journal nearby or there's extra space on the back of the packet for writing. I have an extra pen if anybody needs one. Just a minute or two more. Finish up with your final thoughts. All right. Now, if anybody would like to share, we'll have a little bit of discussion. So how was that for you? Would anybody like to share their experience with the mudra or the meditation or anything that's come up so far in our practice today? Amy?
I love how you guided us. I love that kind of guiding and mudra work. And I always feel like with mudras, it always brings a sense of more interconnectivity with any pose that you're doing, more a circuit like you talk about, that whole energy lock and a seal. So I really felt that truly while you're guiding us. And then, yeah, I guess with the last meditation, I really love that heart one. I haven't done that heart one really before. Usually I do Anjali. But that heart one sort of did open up more emotion, because when you're doing Anjali, you're more closed off, and not that you're closed off, but you're more together. So it didn't seem like your heart could really radiate out as much. And then you brought in the fact that it does open up your more breath. So it really opened up more emotional aspects of that.
Mm.
And then that's where it just led me to like thinking about a time in kayaking that I didn't do that well, and just lots of failure, and embarrassment, but getting through that meditation, that guidance, just right. I love that, riding the waves of feelings, and immediately brought me to kayaking. Like, okay. And so just learning how to just ride that wave and understand that I lived through it, and not to feel embarrassed or upset, and then I got stronger for it. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much for your share. I love that. And thank you for being vulnerable. This is a vulnerable mudra because it connects to our heart, but this is more just to show sort of the sense of the power that mudras do have. So meditation right on its own is so powerful, but in combination with all of our yogic tools, using our Shambhavi mudra or using our Hasta mudras all together in tandem can give us even more of a profound effect sometimes in our practice, or something more that we're looking to evoke in our practice. Would anybody else like to share their experience with the meditation or mudras? Laura?
I felt just instantly calm and centered and peaceful. I just felt like full of love, and I just kept repeating my sankalpa. And I just felt the energy shift in the room. It's kind of just settle and
Yeah.
This is, everybody does this now. And it feels like it's almost trite, at concerts or whatever, but I didn't exactly
Most
relate
people
on
just
it.
do it
Yeah.
differently now. I can't remember how they do it, but they
It's
do it
different?
differently. Yeah, there it is. Yeah,
Uh-huh.
Bryce is on it.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that's
Uh-huh.
Oh, that's how the
Yeah,
cool
that's
kids
right.
do
That's
it.
how
That's so cool.
kids do
How
it.
do you do it?
Yeah, makes my brain feel
We can reclaim it. as-
Yeah, we reclaim
Uh-huh.
it. That's our Purna. Bryce?
I did like the Purna Hridaya. I've not held that one for a longer time. It felt like an open window, if that makes sense. Versus like Anjali Mudra, like you said, this feels closed and like deeply personal. And this one, it's still personal, but it's also open. And then I liked the combination with the psycho-emotional meditation and like reclassifying the feelings as waves of energy means that you can like ride that with the breath versus sometimes the feelings themselves just feel overwhelming. So appreciate
Totally.
that.
Yeah, I love that so much. Would anybody else like to share anything?
Like everybody's kind of added that openness to it. It was really funny when we first put the mudra up here. All I could think about was cake. And like a really
Yeah.
strong image of cake was there for like a good minute and a half before I really caught on with what was going on. And I just recognized, again, with that openness, I was just like, well, I don't really want cake right now. And I don't really love cake that much. What I really want though is that comfort that cake gives me. And so then that's when I decided to go into child's pose. I continued to hold the mudra as best I could. So it was like, I just want to be held. And so I was still open, but I was like we said, it was really open. So I was like, it's too open. It's making me think and dream of cake. So I'm gonna go very easy.
That's incredible.
Yeah, I wish it was more.
Opening up to our experiences. You never know what's gonna
Yeah,
come
it
up.
was
Maybe
cool,
some
yeah.
cake comes up, maybe it's a donut, maybe it's not
You never know.
any sort of
Yeah.
pastry or food
Unexpected.
All right, any final thoughts about the meditation or anything that's come up with mudra so far? Questions?
Have you seen any mudras with your feet? Like you get them in or anything like that?
That is a great question. That is something I'd have to look into, but I can get back to you about some total mudras.
Yeah, 'cause I didn't see those over there and I haven't seen many.
Yeah, I'm sure they exist. All right. So we're going to move on to sort of our final piece of today's workshop, which will be creating your own mudra plan. So this is not the template that I want to be looking at. So if you flip to your second to last page in the packet that looks like this is our mudra plan. So let's see, we have an even amount, so I will ask you to partner up with the person next to you and you can discuss, take a few minutes to discuss what mudras you like, and know that this is not limited to any of the mudras in here. So first question, what are the mudras that you connected with? These could be any mudra. Maybe you like a Garuda or any other sort of mudra. And then you'll sort of create your plan of where you'll use these on and off the mat and when you will use these mudras. And then we'll get back together for discussion before our final reflection and closing. So,
You have some ideas already? Is this like garden?
It is garden, but it's also like custom.
Yeah,
Do the thing.
yeah.
It was
Purna Hridaya. Yeah, full heart. I think Purna is full and Hridaya is heart.
Intelligence?
It is
like,
intelligent,
but
but also
not like
like
this one, like this, but more specifically over the heart. That works more for me when I was a runner. And as a policeman, because they can use it.
Yeah. Like you're hanging balls.
Yeah.
Shiva or something, do you know? But I went to this one first, I was reading my book and I brought it into my class. It's just to give you. So sometimes when I'm trying to just fully expand. Yeah. And that's just what it gives you relationship. Or how to use it. So I just feel like that was key for me. I love with my meditation, I just want to find art to be like that, but I want to
Yeah.
I do usually, you know, when I just think prayer, but I really like to provide to get out more emotions, because I think just for me, I'm not as openly emotional. You know, to keep and kill it, but I think it's good, you still gotta get that out.
Yeah.
I think I'm gonna use that one more. Yeah. I don't know, this one, that one just came to my mind, it just came to me.
But I think for me, it's expected, like, whatever you want, just having the personality for you.
Yeah.
Like you think of it,
Like sometimes it just naturally happens. And like cultivating.
Really? Okay. Maybe that's, yeah, where it goes.
It's either hungry or placating, so, yeah, I'm really knowledge about each person.
I have taught some in class, like, I love the.
Oh, yeah. I like that.
Thank you for all of that wonderful, wonderful stuff, but it just doesn't. Whereas if I at least take this time, I know that.
What have you used?
It's just doing that. This is seal it.
Yeah. Yeah, I can take it awesome.
Yeah, that's a good one. Yeah. Yeah. I know there's one that Joy always does.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know, it's not Anjali.
And I think that what we
She
do
called it
in
them.
that is our
How
state
they-
is
sometimes-
So like, yeah.
But she does this one a lot, actually. so.
I am.
It's not one of the finest, but I think about it. Students doing it during-
Maybe that's just what I try.
Especially like-
Oh, really?
Yeah. Respond.
Okay, I didn't know it was a mudra.
All right, we've got 1 minute.
And that-
Okay.
Start
Just
to
actually just think-
finish up with your closing ideas.
What is, do you know the movement, like, a different
Brownie like
each hand?
where it's hard.
Different one with each.
It's not in the book.
Calm down.
It's not in the book?
It's not in the
Then
book.
I would.
I found it online and it was it's something that started with a K. It wasn't Kali, but it was started with a K. And it was like this hand,
Maybe
you
that's just.
like touch like this, and this hand you go like.
Oh,
this.
interesting.
Or maybe it was the opposite. I'm pretty sure that it was these fingers.
And I go,
That gets a little kind of uncomfortable to hold.
Cause like, you
for a
know.
while.
it's like, mm,
I
Interesting.
can't remember which one was what, but.
Okay.
I bet that one, does that one have to do with like the lunar and solar stuff?
It's
like-
Yeah,
more
there's
like
one
I don't know if this
back,
is, but
when you
like,
have big back.
Colin cuts through the
back
bullshit.
issues.
and then,
Interesting.
But I think for me, it's more about like. not
With
that,
the lower
but
back,
it's also
wasn't surgery or anything like that, just above her tailbone.
Whatever it is, right? Like,
so
getting
the meridian points are.
Yeah, so I don't know.
It wasn't in that book.
Yeah.
It was-
Yeah,
I
yeah.
haven't heard
We'll
of
chat
one.
about it.
It's like online, I just looked it up, so, and you know, everything you find online
Yeah.
is real, right?
Interesting
So-
stuff. though. All right, let's all start to come back together, everybody, for our final closing and discussion.
Yeah.
Like, it's like you holding a knife.
All right,
Yeah.
very cool. I loved hearing everybody's different discussion. I hope that that was insightful, or maybe you got a little bit of a look into some other people's favorite mudras, because that is what is so fun about mudras is like we talked about earlier, they're just so unique. There's so many different mudras, ways to do it, areas to practice it. So it can always help to talk to somebody else and just kind of open your mind to all the different possibilities. So would anybody like to share their mudra plan or anything that they discussed about mudras and how to start using it?
I'll share mine. I really like Kali, and I like what Lori said about like slicing through obstacles. I'm gonna do that.
Okay. Yeah, slice the cake. Cut through the cake.
You could do this in crescent, you can do
Uh-huh.
this in warrior one, and like Lori said, you could do it as you're doing some lateral movements, like. I'm gonna-
Totally.
I don't usually incorporate mudras into my classes, so I'm gonna try that.
That's a great one. I love it.
You could do it like when you're in. This is like.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
This is-
It's a
I,
great-
I think I've,
Is it great?
Yeah.
Oh.
ah,
Hara.
that's super cool.
Hara.
Ah,
You go.
could be.
Hara.
That's cool.
Yeah, or you can do it like I've done in your class before, Austin, like the pumping up, you know? Pump up. You're slicing through it all. It's
You
like
gotta
through
know how
everything.
you phrase it.
Yeah.
You say,
Yeah,
jacking.
yeah, yeah, yeah. No, I mean, like, pump it up, you know, like.
Like jacking it. People say,
Yeah.
What am I, jacking off?
Yeah. Backing up.
Yeah. It's fine to get dirty.
Yeah.
Look at that. Somebody's like, oh, I see where you're going. It wasn't like-
All right, we have just enough time for maybe one or two more shares, if anybody would like to share your plan.
Well, I'll share something with the question, when you're going to use the Hasta Mudras. I think, your hands and your arms and gestures of conversation are such a powerful way to connect to people. And like, just simply like doing this, or, you know, showing interest, but like, you know, sometimes this can be very much like, I had a conversation with somebody where I was cold the other day, and I did this and I realized like, and then they did it to me, and I was like, oh, wow, we are really closed off.
You know that you didn't actually cancel my class?
You better go turn that heat up right now.
Well, are they finished on?
Just go in and turn it on.
Alright.
Yeah. Do it.
Okay.
Sorry.
So mudras.
Well, it just closes things off, and it's just really interesting to witness just your own, because mudras are spontaneous, you know, that's how they were learned. They were spontaneous, responses from deep meditation. And so you think about the spontaneous way our hands and arms move when we're in conversation, how we're, maybe not even conscious of our body, and then we find ourselves doing these things, we see things like the thinker and, even, very interesting.
I have a question on that.
Yeah.
I don't know if you did any research, but like sometimes like we twiddle our hands.
Oh,
when we're
yeah.
Nervous. What is that?
I mean, specifically twiddling your hands, I'm not sure like exactly how to answer that one, but yeah, I mean, that could be considered, part
Maybe
of a
it's emotions
mudra.
in your body, your mind, your spirit, trying to figure this energy locking. You're just trying to be here.
Yeah, I
you're
mean,
not
maybe
sure
you
if you're
have like
holding
lots of
it.
energy just coming out of your
Yeah.
hands. You're just feeling that way. It's like you don't know if you need a way to kind of
But
bring
maybe
it
you
all
just hold the
together.
mudra and that would just
Maybe.
stop that.
Yeah, maybe there's a
weird
mudra
thing.
like when you're fidgeting with hands that
Yeah.
that just feels good, or like, if I'm nervous, like maybe my palms are down, like I want to stay to myself or something, but I'm like, when I'm up, it's like I'm more receiving.
Mhm.
All right, any final closing thoughts that anyone would like to say or questions about mudras?
Is there actually research out here on mudras, people using mudras, what has shown for disease or something like that?
Is there research on
Is
it?
there research out there?
I'm sure there is. I mean, scientifically, there is a lot of research on mudras like the brain, and they are in general, if I'd say, especially if you look into like acupressure and the meridians, those are the ones that mostly connect with like, if you look on, okay, I didn't put oh yeah, so if you look at the meridians, like those ones connect to like the kidney, the spleen, the bladder. So that would maybe be a nice area to delve into a little more if you're curious about like specific parts of the body. All right, well, that has taken us right to our time. I'd like to thank all of you for joining. I've got some workshop feedback forms here. Yeah, just so wonderful to spend this time with you, and rather than stressing about it, just enjoying the moment of all of us being together and talking about mudras.
Come on down, have a sit on your mudra.
Yeah, yeah, right.
Not sit on calling. No, at your own risk. Yeah, I'm good. Yeah, that's the man. So let's have a conversation real quick, about this before you fill that out, you guys, if you don't mind joining in the conversation. This is tough. This is a tough conversation because mudras are simple and complex and deep.
Mhm.
So, first off, I think it was a great design program. I think the content was great. I think the context is great. I think that we just need some subtle refinement to make things land a little bit more for like takeaways. And there were some moments around education that felt to me a little bit glossed over and a little need a little bit more detail. So I like that you had your sources cited, but in the back, like you're like, well, this is where I got these pictures. But things like this, the brief history of mudras, did you write this?
No, that one's also from that book.
Okay, so just make sure whenever you're doing something like this, it needs to be, anytime you're quoting something word for word, you need quotations and you need a source cited.
Yeah.
Yeah, to give credit, because that gets you in trouble with plagiarism, right?
Yeah.
'Cause
I mean,
you
I don't
even
think
said-
that-
You even said at one point, I put that down there and I was like, does he mean he wrote that or he took that?
Well, that one I don't think I wrote down word for word.
Okay,
That one was just from the book, but not exactly how it was written.
okay. But even with that, I would say be careful about what you're writing down, because you need to be teaching from a place of about, 10 to 30% of your knowledge base. So there were a few times where like Tiffany hit you with some actually really valid, great questions where you gave a long-winded, I don't know, right? And that's okay. It's always okay to answer with an I don't know. The sooner you get to I don't know, usually gives you more credit, right? But the more you kind of like dance around, finally sounds like, it sounds like you don't know. You know what I mean? Like, that's a different experience for the listener. So what I would say is like, a lot of this was too complex for you to understand. So don't, you know what I mean? Like, this is like, your comprehension of this is like, I could tell based off the questions. There wasn't a lot beyond what you put on the page, right? So if they ask a complex question or a contextual question, you don't really have the knowledge base. So simplify this a little bit, right? Like, you don't need, I just think a lot of this information about Ara and Akshara and Vaikari, you know, like, to me, that's superfluous. Like, really what we're here for is the experience of mudras, and we don't really need that. Like, you could give a brief, like, thing of saying, like, you know, just think about what is a need to know about mudras? Well, what are mudras first up, right? They're locks. And there's a specific kind called hasta mudras. And maybe even take a moment to define those based off of what other kind of mudras they are. And how they're similar and how they're different, just so we can get a greater context of why hasta mudras are their own classification. And then talk about where do we get mudras out of traditional texts. So anytime you're talking about traditional yoga, even if it's at a beginner level, you should give it at least a little bit of context of where do these come from, not in a modern, not saying like, oh, you know, everything I'm teaching you is from Joseph and Lillian LePage's book, right? But where did they get it? Like, or even what's their lineage, right? That's fine too. But sharing a little bit about like, what is, what's her name? Indu Aurora's lineage, like what's that come from? Yeah, in material like this, the energetics of the hand, you know, if you're not prepared to talk about it with a little bit more knowledge, then don't include it again. So, like marma points are not the same as meridians.
I definitely got that one.
Yeah.
confused.
So marma points are what? Who remembers from 200 hour? Yeah, and see, we didn't even, I don't know if we ever covered it.
Mm-mm.
Minor chakras.
It's, yeah, they're minor chakras. It's
Mhm.
where there's a collection of nadis crossing, but they're not the same thing as meridian. So this is where a lot of this stuff gets complex, and we need to know the difference, because meridians come from what school of thought? Are they yoga thought, first off? There you go. So it's TCM, which, yes, it's been appropriated into yin, but it's not purely traditionally a yoga practice. So you need to kind of, at the outset, decide what I'm going to be teaching. Now, you can mention offhand, yes, you know, the hands have all these energetic points that, you know, there's meridians connected, but putting a diagram here really puts you in a vulnerable position as a teacher
Yeah,
to be like,
I can see
if I
that
put
now.
this diagram here, I'm ready to talk about this, and
Mhm.
like, I'm ready to field some questions, which, I mean, not to put you on the spot, I wouldn't be either, you know what I mean? Like, I wouldn't put that in my yin manual. Right?
Yeah.
So that's just good to know of like, where I think you could have used a little bit more time and attention is how the elements, how the tattvas connected, like, because you used mudras like Gu Mudra, grounding mudra. You used, you know, Anjali Mudra and Purna Hridaya, which, does that come from the Indu Aurora book?
No, that one comes from
Lillian LePage's book?
Yeah,
or
it
Joseph
does.
Lillian
Mhm.
LePage's book? Okay. Yeah, you know, I think for me, it's really important if you want to teach these kinds of things that are, you have to make a decision. Do I want to teach these with a modern take? Where we're doing, you know, we're like, how's this mudra feel, or whatever it was? God bless. Is this it? No.
This middle fingers touch.
Ah!
that's fun.
It's hard to do that.
Did I get it?
There you go, yeah.
I thought it would be so. Oh, it feels good.
I-
Oh, no, it does feel
I
good.
can't. I
So,
can't-
you know, if you want to do a modern take, then leave all the traditional stuff behind. But if you want to like teach from a place where, you know, the knowledge base is rooted in tradition, then you have to know your stuff really well, right? But you have to focus on what the stuff is, which is not about meridians, right? That's a whole separate workshop. Because meridians have to do with sticking needles in, and it's not necessarily, which I get, this is from a mudra book probably, I'm
Mhm.
guessing,
Yeah.
but you know, she's trying to be a certain way with it. So I would say, what excites you about it, you know? I would also look at these questions at the end, the mudra plan. Well, let me back up. I also questioned your mudra selection, because you only picked 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 mudras, which is fine, I think, for an hour.
Mhm.
But some of them we didn't practice. And I wondered why you selected them if we weren't gonna practice them.
I just kind of wanted to give more information on them, but I didn't know like if it would be too many mudras to fit into such a short practice to just be like, here's this one, here's this one, here's this one, boom, boom, boom.
Yeah, I understand. Something to consider though, is that a lot of like traditional asana practices have the mudras baked into things. And it's because the asana is so much more sensational than the mudra. So the mudra is not, generally speaking, if I'm in a warrior two and I'm going to take a specific mudra with it, I'm not going to feel the effects of that because the asana is kind of giving so much sensory data to me to observe that that's going to be lost. Now, does that mean it doesn't have an effect? No, we can use mudra and asana as a focal point and as a way to, I actually really like this circuitry closing, like the idea of closing the circuit off. So the piece that was missing for me with this is how can, offering up for us as the experience, how can we use mudras intentionally? And I wanted you to say that, like, I wanted you to get there from the beginning and use that as your through line through, like it finally got there to the end kind of with your questions, like what's your plan, but like start from the beginning going like, these are subtle things. And in fact, we're really only going to feel the effect when we sit in meditation, we close off everything else and we quiet down enough to where all of a sudden this starts to inform an effect that we're aware of. But in a big asana thing, it would have been cool to do like one Sane where we come up and we do it through Anjali Mudra the whole time. And we move Anjali Mudra into different places in the body and notice what that feels like. And then the second time, Kali Mudra. And that subtle shift, what do we feel? How do we notice a difference, right?
I like that.
Yeah, and then, if there would have been time, maybe that would have been nice. I think this is a pretty esoteric mudra. I think, I also think you chose 2 heart mudras, like
Yeah.
Anjali Mudra and Purna Hridaya, which I think that would have been a great opportunity too, to explore in meditation the difference. Spend a couple minutes here and then spend a couple minutes there. I think you mentioned Mukhi Mudra. It would have been nice to see that one. I think there are some mudras that would have been better selections than the Ida Pingala mudra,
Oh, yeah.
unless you were going to use it, right?
Yeah.
But to just have it there, I think was didn't reinforce kind of the intention of the exercises and the learning and the workshop in a way that, even Dhyana Mudra, like that would have been such a great opportunity to like explore this for a few minutes and then here, right? Like, because sometimes they're so subtle, like we don't know the difference until we try different things and kind of test them against each other. But I think the intention of the design of your program, I love the content. I love mudras. I love that you were like, you're clear about like, this is hand mudras and this is different than other mudras. And you did a great job in the beginning talking about the subtlety of them and the definition. And you got people in on the discussion and you created, you really tried to create an experience for people and to give them a takeaway. So you try to create an experience, an education, and a takeaway. So I think like you're really barking up the right tree here. It's just a little like 3-degree shift on a couple of these items that would have made, I think, to me, a little bit more of an effectual difference, if that makes sense.
That does. I'm hearing like I bit off more than I could chew with some of the extra pieces in here. Like if I were to redo it, maybe I'd do like shorter in the discussion piece and then a little more in like the practice and meditation piece where we get to actually use the mudras in different ways.
Yeah, I think you could have definitely done more of the experiential stuff. Because really for what this was for, you didn't, I think the cool thing was, you probably could have just done this and just done that. Like this whole, to me, all of this stuff, and I get it, because sometimes I'll design a program and I'll throw like all the things that I think are cool, or that, not that saying you did this, but like, I'll be like, this will make me seem smart. I don't think that I'm thinking that thought, but then I realize I do it. And I'm like, oh, that's the only reason I put that in there. That was just for me, right? Like I liked that or thought it was neat. So I put it in and so it's just a little editing. And then, so this is a great first draft, right? And I think with just a little bit of editing and a few more practice runs, I think you really have something like public ready. You know what I mean? Yeah. Watch your reading scripts too much.
Hmm.
Watch sort of as a
Filler word?
as a filler word, but you are so personable and you're so like good at like making people feel welcome to share, making people feel comfortable, making people feel vulnerable. You're such a good leader and role model in the way that you are just welcoming. There's a warmth about you that makes people want to share. And so you didn't, you know, you're just comfortable in your skin in a way that that I think, you know, just works really well for you. But don't let that become a crutch for some of these other things you need to clean up, like your language, your sort ofs, recognize it, you know, giving yourself the hard, I don't know answers right from the get-go, you know, just outing yourself or calling yourself in. Think of it that way. Rather than calling yourself out, you're calling yourself in because you are essentially in this with the students together, right? So there's no shame in not knowing something as a leader of something. Yeah. Oh, lastly, if you would have cut out some of this other stuff like this,
Mhm.
that didn't really lead us anywhere of value, in my opinion, and no offense. I think it could have if we would have picked one like elements or chakras, right? So you could think about that. You don't have to cut it out totally, but like if you're going to use it, how does it plug in, right? But I think a lot of really great material we didn't even cover, which was the bullet points, right? Like really talking about like, well, what do they say this mudra does? And then play with like, did you feel that, right? Like, and just get really like handsy with it, you know, touchy feely, you know. But play like that's the thing like you have going for you is playfulness. Like you're young in your teaching, you're not an expert yet, but don't worry about being an expert. But what you still bring to it is still really valuable. That's playfulness. That's a sense of like strange amount of confidence for how young you are. You know what I mean? And like lean into those things while starting to work on these other things by intentionally bringing them in to focus. Like challenging yourself to learn that and not be on script. That's lazy to read that, right? You're a better teacher than that and you can do that. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Yeah, this is a big enough deal where you should be off script for that.
Okay.
Yeah,
Well,
Yeah.
thank you.
because I know what it means to you. That's the only reason
Mhm.
because other people read stuff off script today and I didn't say that same feedback. But like I've heard you say many times, like, you know, this is what I'm called to do in my life. This is what I'm meant to do. Well, let's see the work. Let's see the homework, right?
Yeah,
Yeah. Cool.
thank you.
Thanks, brother.
Yeah.
Yeah, good
Well,
job.
Thank you.
Did you change it without kind of last minute?
Did I change it? Oh, I changed it like 5 times. Yeah, actually got changed a lot.
The last time we talked about it, above.
Yeah, oh
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, because it had mudras, it had a plan, and I was like, those are the things that I think are gonna stick. But I had to flip it around.
I hope you'll, you know, work on it and polish it up and offer it to the public. I think that'd be a fun workshop.
Yeah, I
for
think
I
people.
think so too,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Like, there's a lot there. I think that I really bit off, like I said, I bit off a lot more than I could chew with just the idea of mudras in general, like going from this angle is like, there's a
Yeah,
lot.
don't get technical. You don't need to get technical. Why people would want to come to this workshop is to play with mudras, not to be experts at mudras. So you don't have to be the expert in the mudras to provide the experience, because that's actually what your gift is. Your gift is providing the experience. Right now, you just don't have the years under your belt to be an expert on it, but that's not what they're there for anyway. So take the pressure off your shoulders. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Yeah,
Okay,
cool.
cool.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And this is your commencement to Katie. You handed it out.
Oh, whoops. I handed out the commencement meeting, really?
Sit on your mudra.
Yeah.
Not on your mudra.
Yeah, you kind, that was funny. You just,
That was
you
good.
went right with it.
Uh-huh.
I don't think I think that fast on my keyboard.
All right, well, you all can keep your packets and learn some more about
Thank you.
mudras, yeah.
Also,
Okay.
one more thing, don't apologize for your Sanskrit. Just know the words you're gonna use and get them right, because that's lazy teaching too.
Okay.
Yeah, you just say, oh, my Sanskrit's not good. It's like, well, you're the one who prepared this plan. You know what you're gonna be saying. You know, you can do the Google speech thing and
Okay.
know and practice it so that when you show up, you don't have to make excuses for yourself because
Gotcha.
that undermines your authority as a teacher.
Mm,
You know what I mean?
yeah,
Yeah. It's okay to say, I don't know. That actually empowers your authority as a teacher. But to make excuses for yourself of things that you could have easily just Googled, you know what I mean?
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I didn't even think about that.
Yeah, yeah. Well, that's why I'm here, bro. Yeah.